it feels personal because it hasn't come through a system where there's a lot of HTML code embedded within it. Between those two deals, there's $250,000 in annual revenue, which is recurring because they have new clients every year.
Brilliant.
And we went and we turned our competitors into customers.
Wow.
It would not have been possible to achieve it and execute it without Mailshake. So much value to me. And I always laugh when people say that email is dead, because I'm like, it's dead if you're doing it poorly. My name is Zack Gutin. I'm the founder and president of a company called ThinkAlike Media. And we specialize in helping businesses with their B2B sales and marketing outreach. I've been using Mailshake for about 5 years now, I would say 4 or 5 years. And we use it rather aggressively. We have a slate of clients at any point, anywhere between 15 and 20 clients or so. And we will set up each one of them with a Mailshake account. It's really the core of how we conduct our outreach process. It allows us to do certain things that we think are really valuable in terms of how we personalize messaging and follow up based on certain behaviors. One of our goals is really to take a very soft touch approach, a very consultative approach. A lot of my clients have very high dollar value items. These aren't going to be quick sales. And so we don't want to treat them that way out of the gate. We want to sort of express that we're there for this consultative relationship, and we're going to be with the prospect all through the sales cycle. Again, Mailshake is really beneficial to making the cadence of the outreach feel just as warm as it would once we're personally engaged with the person.
What problems were you hoping to solve when you were doing this? So, you're starting your business, you're helping clients grow, but like, what main problem were you hoping to solve?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, at the time that I had reached out to Drip, what I was looking for functionality wise was not just a drip campaign that keeps coming regardless of how somebody interacts with an email. I wanted it to stop automatically if they did respond, because that's really what we're looking for, is the response. There's certainly value to real drip campaigns where even if somebody did respond, you still want to send them the next bit of information. But our goal is to get that response and now to manually engage, typically answer perhaps some initial questions, but really get them onto a sales call. We want to have a meeting. And so once somebody responds, the last thing we want is at that point for them to get another message that's coming automatically, because now it's very obvious that they were part of this sort of automated sequence. And that really is one of the benefits to me, is that on the front side, the recipient's experience receiving our outreach, it feels personal because it hasn't come through a system where there's a lot of HTML code embedded within it. And so it feels like an email that was just written directly to that person, which lends itself to what we do. We write campaigns that feel like the start of a conversation. I come from a background in screenwriting. For a long time, I was the vice president of sales for a company called Final Draft, which is a software in the filmmaking industry. And so I have a lot of connection with story. And so we really use a very story-driven approach to our outreach, and a conversational approach. And in a sense, I always tell people we're trying to frame up a scene when we're first starting to.
I love this. At Final Draft, you were leading sales, and you were able to take that knowledge and bring it into your own business now and create stories for your clients.
That's it. I always think of, I think for most people who work in some sort of executive capacity, they know what it's like to get a cold email, and it's very easy to disregard. It comes across usually very spammy, very shallow. Not a lot of thought has gone into what they're saying. And really it boils down to, they're going to tell you, here's what we offer and here's what we do, and please buy it. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We really want the opposite of that. We want to tell someone like, hey, this is what you're going through. I'm guessing you're having this kind of challenge. It has nothing to do initially with here's what we do. Let's get on the same page that you have this challenge. If so, we might have something for you. So let's talk about where they are in the world that they're in. And so I always frame up this scene for people. I say, if we were at a networking party and this same prospect was standing across the room from us, what would the start of that conversation sound like? We wouldn't walk over and start spouting off statistics and ROI and pricing. They would walk away. They would call for security. They would get you thrown out of the party because it's odd. And that's exactly what happens with emails that are written that way. Just see you later. If instead somebody walked over you with a big smile on their face and friendly, and typically they would start the conversation with, hi, here's who I am. I know who you are. I know what you do already. I admire what you do, or I'm familiar with what you do. You want to stroke the ego a little bit of that person and let them know that you care about them, that you really looked into who they are. And these are the kinds of things you can do with Mailshake. And so we want to get across that sort of personalization. And that really speaks, of course, to the first message. The follow-ups that come from there have to stay in that same tone. And that's where we tend to win people over, is this isn't a one-shot deal. We're going to stick with you. And one of the things I love about Mailshake is we can adjust the cadence between each message. I like to make the assumption that if we haven't heard back from someone, okay, maybe they're not interested. And in which case, maybe we're never going to get them interested. But there's some people there that are interested. They're just busy. They're in the middle of putting out some fire at work. They had a bunch of meetings today or tomorrow, and they just don't have time for this right now. So to keep pursuing someone within that same window seems foolish. They're not ready to talk to you. And what I love about Mailshake is that the way we use it is we loosen up the cadence. The further along we go into the messaging, the more time there is between each message, to make the assumption that we need to get outside that window we were in before. Let's try to catch them at some different period of time where maybe they've got an easier week ahead of them, and now they're going to respond to their catching up to email. And so, yeah, I really bring storytelling into this, and it's amazing the world of difference that you see when you engage people where they are with the challenges that they have. And so I'll share my screen here. So, we have, as I mentioned, we have quite the roster of clients here, and it's
I recognize somebody's nice.
Yeah. So most of these are active clients. A couple of them are not. We'll usually we will basically stick with the Mailshake process of offboarding a client, and so if they want to take over the account, we can always transfer it over to them. But we wait until Mailshake clears it out after, I think it's 90 days. And if at that point they haven't asked for it, then we just delete it. But we let it sit there in case they ever come back and want it. But and some of these clients are clients that were part of the case studies that I did with you guys over the summer, and are still doing fantastic. But what one in particular that I wanted to share is this one. This is a client that is a meditation coach. He's an online meditation coach, primarily based on YouTube. He's based in Australia. He's phenomenal in what he does. He, first of all, just even being in meetings with him, I could have the most stressful day. And as soon as we're in a meeting together, he has this calm about him. And it just, like, I could have the worst day. As soon as I have a meeting with him, I know it's all going to be all right. He's just got this real, like, great, just kind of, I'll use the word aura about him. And
I'm
kind of
look him up.
Almost from
I need a meditation today.
Yeah. And really what his specialty is for people who, struggle with drinking. And he does draw the line in the sand that he's not here to help someone who is truly an alcoholic. Someone who is an alcoholic needs more clinical help than him. And as part of the 12-step program, meditation becomes one of the things that you can do. I believe it's around step 11. And so he does potentially play a role there. But initially, if somebody is truly an alcoholic, they need different help than him. Really, his role is for somebody who recognizes that they're perhaps drinking too much and can still control it. They themselves can still reel that back in.
Stop it before they become an alcoholic. And so he's helping people change their lives. That's amazing. And you're helping him.
Exactly. And so in addition, absolutely. And so as I tell this story, keep that in mind, is like, in addition to all the sort of revenue success here, is that we're helping people. We are genuinely helping people with this. And it just feels good all day long. And so clients hire us for really one of three things. And a lot of times if they are like there'll be a combination of two of those things. It's often like, we're going to do media outreach because that's going to benefit our B2B outreach. We're going to be able to leverage those articles and show the presence they have online. So it's, one of those three things. And that was the case here. Initially, with this company, we started doing outreach for affiliate partners. What we really wanted was blogs and people who were in the wellness area to write about him, to interview him. And you can kind of see that here. We had a campaign that was press outreach. After we got a little ways into that and started to build up enough, and you can see how well we did here. Once we started to get enough press, it was almost like, that's enough press. Now we've got to start to convert this more. And these blogs were writing about him, and it was driving affiliate sales. But his affiliate sales were an online YouTube course that's about $90, and so these are sort of trickle revenue pieces. And the reaction was really strong, though. People really appreciated what he had, and the meetings were really good. And we decided we were going to take an effort to go into clinics, to target clinics. And that's what you see here, the rehab counselor outreach.
That's amazing. So you started with press outreach to generate exposure. Once that had traction, you started building some affiliate revenue, the machine started going, you moved on and said, okay, how can we expand this? And now you're reaching clinics that have potential bigger revenue.
Exactly. Now we're going to take some bigger swings, and all of that presence online helps support that. And so when we do that outreach, we're looking for anything from a counselor who has a roster of 10 clients and maybe could refer someone, up to a larger spectrum. And in fact, one of the sort of great surprises of this case study is, we were in touch with a company, a clinic in Tennessee, and we had a really great call with them. And it seemed like it was a perfect fit because they had a series of like courses. It was art and music and other forms of therapy that they offered to their clientele. And they saw meditation fitting right in with it. And so they had the model already in terms of how to license participation from another vendor in this way. So we didn't have to kind of invent the wheel. They almost brought it to us. And once we found them, and so the great surprise was, we had gotten downstream in this conversation with a clinic in Tennessee. And as things really were looking good, our contact there, she said, by the way, we're part of a network of clinics. There are 13 clinics around the United States that we're connected to, and all of them could use this. And so we took a step back. As close as we were to closing a deal with them, we took a step back and we said, okay, what if we did this for all 13 clinics? We'll give you guys a bigger price break per clinic. You'll be licensing his content inexpensively in comparison. There was a major hurdle challenge here, which is ultimately these costs are covered by insurance companies. So it has to be framed in a specific way to be able to accommodate their needs. And so that's where going out to the clinic level, to the whole network level, actually was a benefit. We were able to show on a network level that all 13 locations were going to be using this, all their patients. And so it was one big insurance conversation for them to have, and ultimately to get clearance on. The value of that one deal is $130,000 in annual revenue.
Nice.
And after we discovered that such a network of clinics existed, we went and found another one, and we closed the exact same deal with them.
I love it.
And so between those two deals, there's $250,000 in annual revenue, which is recurring because they have new clients every year. What he offers to them is a little different from what he offers online, although it is primarily his core offering, which is just kind of licensing his content for that he's pre-recorded. However, we went a step further as a sort of deal sweetener, which is that once a week he does a live feed where anybody who is that interested in really enjoying the meditation and wants to go a little deeper, they can ask questions of him and have him live. So and then they air that at one time across the clinic so that everybody knows when to expect it. And you can imagine what a game changer that is.
That's amazing. Nice work, Zach.
Thank you.
It's so great to hear. It's incredible. listen to these success stories. I see it in email sometimes, but to see the passion behind it and get the details on what went into it, it's super
It's
exciting.
been
And
really exciting. And, again, this is the sort of interview version of those deals, but there's long sales cycles to them, especially with something like insurance standing in the way. It's challenging, but you don't get these conversations without
mhm,
this. We never would known that that opportunity was there without
yep,
this. And once we had that first one, we had this to go, okay, now we know how to get a second one. Let's go find another network like that. Let's deploy the same process. Let's get another meeting going and, rinse and repeat. And here we are.
are you helping post interest as well? Like you're guiding Rory through the sales cycle entirely
Yes.
from
Yeah.
start to
So my
finish?
Yeah, so my role for clients is cold to close. So I'm doing
Nice.
everything from strategically identifying, who are the personas that we should be pursuing, um, creating those lead lists. We don't buy lists off the internet, and companies will say to me like, well, we could save money, we'll just buy a list off the internet. We'll pass. We're not going to do that.
Mhm.
We're going to be putting our eyeballs onto the creation of those lists every day and our own level of intelligence into who are the people that we need to be speaking to. Let's make sure we're really looking carefully at who we're targeting, because ultimately there is bandwidth in terms of how many emails you can send in a given day without crossing over some sort of spam threshold. And
Yeah.
so you got to make your targets count. You got to make sure every single one is as valid and, as reasonable of an expectation that it could convert as possible. And so, yeah, we do everything from cold to close. And so as responses start to come in, I'm fielding all the responses, typically working with
Nice.
my client to make sure I'm answering them correctly.
Mhm.
Answering those questions, pushing to set up the call, but doing more than just appointment setting. At that point, I'm participating in the sales call as well.
Mhm.
And I think most of my clients will tell you that my guidance on those calls is, it's in a sense, people are contracting me almost as their own sales department. These are
Yeah.
people who have
You're their
done.
VP of sales.
Yeah, exactly. They're really good at what they do. Rory is a great meditation coach. I have clients who are brilliant software developers. They're not salespeople. And
Mhm.
they've found revenue in ways that, in a sense, they've almost tripped and stumbled into it. And they know that. They acknowledge it. They're like, yeah, we got a deal, but we don't know how we got the deal. And so that's really where I come in, is businesses that they've got a little fire going, and we're going to see
Mhm.
if we can really get it started. And in a lot of cases, it's businesses that haven't even gotten that far. And so it's more than just getting the contact and getting the relationship. It's really seeing it through a sales process and thinking strategically and recognizing opportunities like, hey, wait a minute, if this clinic is a network of 13, there's got to be others out there. They're not standing alone like that. So that's the kind of thing that I go and really take the lead on with my clients. It's a huge benefit to the campaign, because being on those calls and hearing the questions and hearing the answers and hearing where the value's coming in for these prospects, I think about those things differently than my clients will. And so I hear some question 2 or 3 times in a series of a few different meetings, and I go, we got to put something in that campaign about this.
Yes.
There's a question there that, and almost like when you're in grade school and a teacher says, if you've got a question, raise your hand, because if you don't ask it, there's someone else out there that's not raising their hand that has the same question. And the same
Yep.
is here. If we're getting those same questions from 2 or 3 people, rest assured there's people who haven't replied who have the same question. And so what can we say in the campaign to almost head that off, to give them more reason to reply? And those points of optimization, time and again, show in the conversions. You see the replies change. We have a younger client. I say younger meaning like a client we've only been with them about 2 months, where that's the case. There was a series of questions right out of the gate, and we realized we had not clarified exactly what we were offering. We found a way to do that, and now we're sitting on 2 different deals in the matter of 60 days. And it's just a matter of
Nice.
getting the right message across to the right people. And we have control right out of the gate of making sure we're finding the right people.
Mhm.
But the right messaging sometimes takes a little trial and error. And so be able to be on top of like, okay, I've identified it. Here's what's wrong. We got to say this differently. And that's part of the role that I play. But yeah, cold to close.
Love it. So you're not having any paralysis in the beginning where, oh, I need to get this messaging perfect. It's, hey, I'm going to find the people. I'm going to create the best messaging I can. I'm going to get on some conversations, and I'm going to adjust this to make it even better.
Yeah, we want it to be as strong as possible, of course, right out of the gate. And our whole first week is onboarding, and part of that is writing and revising the campaign. But we never ever go into the launch of a campaign and go set it and forget it, we're done. It's quite the opposite of like, okay, now it's out there in the world. We've got to be paying really careful attention and looking at even sort of silent interest. I talk to clients all the time about what I'm doing for you is sales and marketing, but make no mistake about it, there's an element of market research here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the metrics. Usually what we tell our clients is we want to be segmenting and creating, we want to be creating different personas. Is there 2 or 3 different industries or sets of targets, business sizes, geographical locations? How can we segment your targets so that we can look at 2 or 3 at a time in different campaigns and look at the metrics and let them illuminate a path for us? Like you have to use a generic example, you have a software that's great for doctors and lawyers. Let's do 2 weeks of leads on lawyers, 2 weeks of leads on doctors. Let the campaigns run. Let's look at the opens and clicks even before we get a first reply. Let's see who's interested. And if we're seeing a lopsided set of metrics where one is far greater than the other, well, next month, let's do 3 weeks of leads into that one, because I'm generating new leads every day for my clients. They're going into these campaigns. That's what I provide. I work on a retainer basis, and part of the sort of KPIs is an initial, the leads that I'm generating each week for them. And so they have that guaranteed to them. And that's where we want to get crafty and try new targets and adjust language. Every set of targets gets a new set of language. What we're saying to one set of targets can't possibly be the same to another set. If the business is bigger and smaller than the previous one, it's a different use case. If they're in a different industry, it's a different use case. We want to really determine those use cases, because back to what I was saying in the very beginning, conversationally, you're going to walk up and talk to somebody, you better be talking about something that they know what you're talking about. So we want to really be like, if this is who this target is, what's the value for them? Let's get them talking. And that's kind of where the name of my company comes from. ThinkAlike is the idea that there are challenges in the world. There are people who have those challenges, and there's people who solve those challenges. And they are thinking about the same things. One's going to solve it, one's struggling with it. And if they met one another, they would probably get along really well. And that's kind of the role we play.
Nice. Do you want to jump into one of these campaigns? So this is the one that generated $250,000 in revenue.
Yeah. So you'll see, open this up here. You'll see, like, right in the beginning, we will address who we are and introduce ourselves. And in explaining what we do, we're trying to get across that this is something that they're dealing with or their clients are dealing with. Here is where we are telling them what we do while at the same time acknowledging the problems that their clients have. Their clients want to break unhealthy habits. They want to find ways to distract themselves from drinking. They need a safer way of doing it. People, in this case, they rely on drinking a lot of times to alleviate stress. Meditation is a great alternative to that. And so for them we want to sort of, and we literally use the word usher here. We want to usher them to that point. We want to really show them that this is the type of thing that your clients probably complain about. And oftentimes that's exactly what people respond to, is people will say, yeah, you know what, we actually have a lot of clients who could benefit from this because they're looking for an alternative to stress management. And then at that point, we've established what the problem is that we're solving. And then we're going to go into a little more about who we are. We're going to qualify who Rory is. And then we're going to go at this point into more of the technical, what they're going to get out of this. It really now speaks to how this works psychologically for someone and what it can do for their immunity. We really now almost take a little bit more of like a medical turn at this point. Here's our call to action. And it's critical, I believe, that a call to action is a very specific page. If clients say to me, oh, we're just going to use our homepage, I push back on that. If I have no other choice, we'll do it. But I want something that is very specific. I want them to see it in the URL. I don't want a hidden click here URL. I want them to know exactly where they're going. I want them to see it in the URL, and you can see it here. There's no mistake what we're asking them to do. We're looking for partnerships. And in a sense, though, I believe it's almost like cut to the chase, like we're inviting you to take a look at our website and hopefully find the thing that we want you to see. We know you're busy. We're going to take you right to the thing you need to see. And if you like that, and you want to learn more, now you're on the homepage, or you're on this page. Now you can navigate backwards. Fine. You're in a good spot though. And then of course our sort of our further call to action to set up a time to speak. Now, this is the first message. So in a sense, it's the longest message. Back to screenwriting. Usually the script in a pilot of a TV show is very different than the rest of the series, because you got to get it all out. We've got to explain who every character is. Got to find a way to introduce every character. It's not something you're going to have to do in any other episode of that series. You have 100 episodes. That's never going to be a challenge the way it is in the first one. Same is true here. First message is going to be a little bit more exposition than the rest of them. So as we move along, first of all, we again, soft. And I like that you guys have sort of guidance here that, like, if you made this a 2, it would go red, and it's too soon at that point. You got to give them a chance. And so then it's soft follow-up, bringing back in the same points, but shrinking it down. At this point, we're less about Rory back straight into the sort of like medical information. We're truncating it, because at this point they've seen it. And you'll notice strategically, we use the same subject lines. We do that because it threads in their inbox. It makes it very easy for them to go and look back to the previous message and see what we were talking about. If each one had a different subject line and they go, yeah, you're following up with me, but I got to go find you from a week ago. Like, what was the first thing you sent me?
Yeah, don't make them think.
Don't make them think. Keep it nice and simple. And a lot of times I believe people think of email marketing and rules and strategies, and they think consumer email marketing. Changing the subject line is a consumer strategy that makes a lot of sense. 40% off airline flights, save now, 40% off. Different things to try to get a consumer to move. We're dealing with busy executives in an office. We've got to think of the way that they're operating within their inbox, threading it. So threading it, and so that now there's less information in the second email, and that's going to be true as we move along here, less and less. But if they want more, it's right there for them in the thread. So when we move on, and you'll see here, like it starts to, now we start to bring in, by the third message, again, 7 days. 7 days in between. At this point, we are trying to get a little bit more direct. We're asking, have you had a chance to look at this? We're jumping right back into the sort of medical push. And then we wait 10 days, and you'll see here, it shortens up again. And this length in between, we think is really important here. This is where we tend to find, like, okay, that's been enough time to get a reply. And the same is true here. In this last one, we typically will ask, is there someone else that we should be reaching out to? And then most importantly is the click no reply. We really value this. This is, I tell people, the strongest lever that we pull on, because when somebody clicks a link, they're interested. We got them to open the email. We got them to read the email. We got them to click a link. If they didn't respond, I want to know why. And there's obviously one answer is they came to the website, they didn't like it. It wasn't what they were hoping to find. Okay, we're not going to get that person. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to go to that site. They might spend a few minutes there looking around because they're intrigued, and then the phone rings or an email pops in. Oh, shoot, they've got a meeting to get to. Out of sight, out of mind. That message is marked red. It's never to be seen again. Something crazy happens in that meeting, never thinking about it again. This message here is so deliberate. We change the subject line because they've clicked. At this point, let's change the subject line, give it urgency that it's a follow-up. We wait 2 days because at this point, I don't want them to forget that they clicked that link. We only go this short if they've clicked. And then we ask very deliberately, did you have a chance to see the video explanation? We're asking a question that we know the answer to. We know you did. You went and did that. We're not going to be too big brotherish about it and tell you that we know that, but we're going to ask that question that we know the answer to. And again, we see more replies from this message in a sequence than any other message. And I think it's because we've identified someone who is interested. And behaviorally, this is the type of thing that I was looking for from Drip that Drip couldn't do, where it would trigger based on that, based on the follow-up, or based on a click, and then would pause if they did reply. And it's the type of thing that you know, I always show clients, like when we get a reply and it comes from a subject line with follow-up, it's like this person clicked. They were looking at, and I'll oftentimes, usually about a week into a campaign with a new client, I'll take them and tour them through here and show them all their metrics and stuff. And I'll come into the sending calendar and I'll show them, let me see if I can find a good one in here. I'm not gonna have a good one to show you when I need a good one. But would be just show them like a click message that's coming up in the next couple of days. And say like, see this person right here, they're gonna get a follow because they clicked yesterday. And it's like, look at that person was interested and they didn't reply, but there they are. And you know, more often than not, a couple days later, we've got that reply. And so I want to share this one because this is one of my longest clients. Jog makes a video-based market research platform. It's used by a lot of different industries. They're a Disney Tech Stars Accelerator company.
Oh, wow.
And, so they're a company obviously heavily used in entertainment, but also in all kinds of live events and not just live events, but really anytime a brand wants to get direct feedback from their consumers and they want it done on a video. And then what my client software does is not just run the campaign, but on the back end, the client gets transcribed videos so that they can go searching for certain things without having to watch the videos. If they want somebody who referenced some feature in a product, they can go search for that word being used and then pull up just that clip, and it isolates just that clip so that you can then push that out for testimonials or social media use. It's really powerful. And but there's so many different use cases. There's so many different types of targets. And so I think it's worth mentioning here as we're looking at this is you can see I'm going to go backwards here. Like we're currently targeting college donations, like alumni organizations where they're trying to get donations. Our pitch to them is you go ask your alumni to share a great story about having gone to your school. Now they're all warm and fuzzy, sending you that video testimonial, and now you remarket to them for donations. And sports has been a huge one for us as professional sports are starting to come back, and also in general live events. They want feedback from their fans to know what is going to be needed to make them feel comfortable coming back into stadiums and arenas. So we can go back. I mean, we've done retail outreach, specific into market research groups.
There's no shortage of campaigns here. I love it.
So many, over the course of 2 years, we've done a lot of campaigns. And the one that I want to show you, though, is one that I brag about. So, in all the outreach, I've been with them for, again, over 2 years. So this predates the pandemic. And one of the pushbacks that we faced sales-wise pre-pandemic was people saying, yeah, we just do focus groups. If we want feedback from our consumers, we go and we do focus groups. And so that was always our competitor, was focus groups. When the pandemic hit, now you go look at the date on this campaign right here. Yep. March 10th, 2020 is, that week is infamy for probably the rest of mankind, that week when the world went into shutdown. And we were a few days ahead of that March 13th real shutdown that we all hit. We were a few days out from that here, but already we knew it was coming. We were being told, don't shake hands with one another. Don't. And so the sense that there was no way that focus groups were going to start putting 10 people around a table for 4 hours anymore. So we created a campaign and we targeted our competitors. We went to them and we said, you can't do that anymore. And if you want to be able to honor the contracts that you have with brands, you need to be able to do this virtually.
That's amazing. This is brilliant.
And we went and we turned our competitors into customers.
Wow. This story is giving me goosebumps. This is so good.
This, if you look, you can look at some of these campaigns, look at like the amount of recipients versus the amount of replies. And you look in here, in like half the amount and the amount of replies that came in, there's about $120,000 in closed business in this one campaign.
Focus group campaign.
Okay, just the one. And the cool thing is, well, we've been in this pandemic for a year now. Over the next 4 weeks or so, a lot of these are coming due for renewal. So in terms of total revenue from this one campaign, this has really shown how powerful and to obviously strategically pouncing on that, thinking about that kind of thing, that's the value that I provide, but would not have been possible to achieve it and execute it without Mailshake. It is imperative that we would, and I can just tell you exactly how this happened. Was we duplicate a campaign that we already had. We went in and rewrote it to make it to make the point that we're reaching out to you as someone who is no longer going to be able to put people in a room. And believe me, the calls that we had even before the deals were closing, there was a sense of fear. I mean, I don't mean to make light of it, because we all went through very real fears at that point. But very real fears of them going, we don't know how we're going to run our business.
Yeah, they should be thanking you. Thank you for this cold email.
And they were, and they were, there was one woman who said to us, she was like, I have been for the last week frantically looking for a way to do this online. And she said, we can't do it over Zoom. There's no way we're going to be able to do this over Zoom. And so my client's product, which is COPA compliant, and it allows a level of security that you wouldn't get otherwise. And we closed a lot of business. We're about to renew a lot of business over the next 6 weeks or so as these come due. And, this is one that I even show to clients after about a week into their campaign. I'll show them like, okay, here we go. This is the start of your campaign. You can see some initial data. Let me show you what a bigger data set looks like. And that's one in particular thing where we go, look how we can flip a switch and be charging into a market.
I love it.
In a couple days.
It's such a big value add to show, hey, like we can literally reinvent the wheel in a week if we need to. How to make things happen.
Yeah. I love it. And we've had so many different types of deals too. I mean, I've framed up some big splashy ones for you here, because the numbers are really exciting.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah. But just to give full context, like, we have a client based in the Bay Area that is a junk hauling company. And we've put together partnerships with real estate companies and construction companies. And they close deals that are between, $1,500 and $7,500 a piece, but they'll do 2 or 3 of them a month or something like that. And it's all coming from our outbound efforts. So it's not only the revenue, but then it's like, well, that construction company, the next time they have a project, they're going to come right back to you. And
the
so
lifetime value of those customers, forming
so
relationships with.
It's not always big 6-figure deals. And because obviously some products don't warrant that or would never really get there price wise. But it's also building pipelines with smaller value deals that can add up just as well, and everything in between. And so, again, I just, there's so much value to me. And I always laugh when people say that email is dead, because I'm like, it's dead if you're doing it poorly. And just like anything else.
You're not telling a story.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not putting time into this and really trying to be smart about it, then why should it work? So, but if you have a great tool and you have good strategy and you put the right amount of time into it, it's amazing the amount of conversations that you get going. And if the product is a fit, if you found a product market fit, it's going to sell.